Good afternoon, everybody. Let us start the class. Let me first of all share the screen. Yes, right. Supposed to take natural gas, very small part. Quickly, we'll finish this and we'll go to another topic. Natural gas. Talking about it, mostly natural gas. It will be found. It is again a small thing, but ningalku that natural gas it will be found along with my oil, right? So wherever we have dealt about oil fields, we dealt about Louisiana and Arkansas oil fields in the case of Gulf of Mexico. We dealt about Persian Gulf, Iran region. Then we also saw about Indonesian region where there is a lot of petrol. Similarly, this Gulf, Sierra Leone, Niger Gulf, this also Sakhalin Islands and in Volga Urals. So if you see, look at this part, look at this map, which is about oil, and immediately see this map, which is about natural gas. There will be high similarity between uh, the the oil fields, as well as the natural gas. So it's like more or less the same thing. If you know the one, you can write the other one. But one thing you need to understand, Russia. Since Russia-Ukraine region has been more in the news, we need to understand this. Gazprom is the main important uh, public gas limited with regard to Russia, and that's an important revenue earner with respect to Russia. Now the same thing when we are talking about Indian conditions, when we are talking about Indian conditions with respect to Indian oil fields, we can say some parts of India that includes the states of KG Basin, Krishna Godavari Delta region. Do I have a map? No. Krishna Godavari Delta region. I do have some natural gas that I can produce from the Bombay High region. Then parts of northeast along the Assam plains. Yes, I also do have some gas production that is done in the case of Gulf of Kutch region. Gulf of Kutch region. Okay, so that is it. That is with regard to my natural gas production. But most of the natural gas for our consumption comes from outside. We import it. So more or less that is the distribution of world natural resources. We have covered both mineral resources. We have covered both mineral as well as energy resources. All right. Now let's go to something else. Yes, I will be sharing these maps with you. This map I will be sharing with you in the Telegram channel. Right now, we are going to the next topic, which is there in our syllabus. That is locational factors of world industries. Broadly, what are the different locational factors? Locational factors of the world industries. See, listen, out of the world industries, try to, as far as possible, that coal industry ka problem I listed out, right? So try to remember coal, try to remember iron and steel, try to remember iron and steel. And then shale gas, coal bed methane. Take this down, this is important. Take this down, this is important. Shale gas and coal bed methane. Now, I presume this will be taken as a part of your paper 2, but if it is not done, maybe we will have one extra class to finish whatever has not been completed. Okay, so shale gas and coal bed methane. Also, like a quick information to all of you, if there is anything, even after all the class is done, like it'll be over in another week or something, like 15th, March 15th is my deadline. So even after everything is done, like you have something where something is bothering you, even after you leave CSIP, I will share you my number. You can ask me anything. You can call me up. You can ask me anything with regard to geography optional. I will do this, and You can give me your answer papers, I will correct it for you. Anything that is related to geography optional, till your preparation is done, I'm there to guide you. Now that's completely irrelevant about CSIP and your relationship, and CSIP and my relationship. It's like something that I am giving you as a personal dealing. All right. Like anything that you need, maybe I will share my personal number also. You can take down my number for that matter if you want. 987-346-0798. All right, share this. Share. You can share your answer writing like after mains if you have some doubts. Maybe if you're giving another attempt and you're having some doubts, and if you want to meet me, if you want to talk to me, this is my number. All right, but this is just make it as close as possible. Do not spread it out, and you can take this number. Call me anytime. Done. Clear. And this is not something that's like nothing related to CSIP. You can even take this number and use it later on. Okay, right? Can I clear this? So this is something like say a sweet deal between us, right? Right. So let's start. Locational factors of world industries. Locational factors of world industries. So when you are doing about models and theories, you will read about Weber's industrial location theory, Weber's industrial location theory, and design based on that theory, there are some broad factors that affect the world industry's location. There are some broad factors that affect the world industry's location. Number one, first of all, very simple, since we have done so much discussion, you know it yourself. First one is nearness with respect to raw material source. Yes, raw material availability or nearness to raw materials availability, raw materials availability. This is my first criteria. This is my first criteria. So what sort of things do I take into account here? Where is my raw material available? Because I need to, at the end of the day, I need to maximize profit. I need to minimize my cost, my transportation cost. We call it as TC, transportation cost. I need to minimize the transportation cost. At the same time, I need to maximize my profit, which means I need to make sure that my industries are located to the next to the raw material source region. So especially this becomes even more important. Please take running notes. This becomes even more important when I'm talking about heavy industries like iron and steel. So heavy industries now, iron ore, it's like very heavy, coal being very heavy. So very heavy raw materials are. So industries like iron and steel. So Rourkela steel plant, Bhilai steel plant, Rajamshedpur steel plant. Every one of this is situated right next to the raw material region. And this condition is very heavily applicable to metallurgical industries, The same thing is also true in the case of certain agro-based industries, like for example, sugarcane. Like for example, sugarcane industry. There, the time is just 24 hours. Within it, I need to transport it. Right. So the first thing is availability of raw material source. The next one is nearness to consumer markets. Nearness to consumer markets. Nearness to consumer market. When I'm talking about any populated country, at the end of the day, my market is going to attract my industries. My market, bigger the market, bigger will be my industry. India is a big market. India is a big market. That's why lots of MNCs come to India. So nearness to market is another important character. Labor availability. Labor availability. So industries are always attracted to cheap labor source areas. Therefore, you have countries like India where there is a lot of skilled labor as well as a lot of cheap labor. So labor availability is another important character. Then comes some infrastructure related issues. Infrastructure related issues. Like for example, cheap electricity. Cheap electricity. Logistics and transportation. Road and railway connectivity. Road and railway connectivity. Then I have road and railway connectivity, availability of water, availability of water. So these are some of the basic infrastructure related issues. Then agglomerative effect. Already, or you can write industrial inertia. Industrial inertia. Already, if there are many industries, then obviously my industry, if I place it there, then there would be a lot of advantage. We call it as industrial inertia. Or iron and steel industry, if I have a rubber industry next to it, this iron and steel industry to produce, maybe if there is an automobile sector, this automobile sector will take goods from iron and steel, they will take goods from rubber industry. So that is industrial inertia. That is industrial inertia or agglomerative effect. That's another advantage with any region. Sixth one. Next one. Geographical conditions. Like what? Geographical conditions. Like for example, favorable climate, favorable terrain. These are some of the other advantages. And finally, we have investments or capitals. Investment or capital. This is needed for starting up any business, and we need to have favorable government policies also. We need to have favorable government policies also. So broadly, these are the different factors which will be deciding my location, industrial location, right? Now the next topic that we have is, yes, now we have factors with regard to industrial locations. I mean, factors that decide my industrial locations. So that brings me to the next question. What are the different industrial locations of the world? We just now discussed what are the factors that decide my industrial locations. So the next thing is, what are my industrial locations or industrial regions in the world? Number one, when we were studying about iron and steel as well as manganese, Moscow Tula region, which is near my Ural mountain ranges, that region has come up again and again. So this Moscow Tula region is one of the major industrial location in the world. The first one is Moscow Tula region, which is near to my Ural mountains. Highly industrial location, very rich in iron ore, rich in coal deposits, rich in coal, rich in iron ore, manganese. Okay, so that is my Moscow Tula region near to my Ural mountains. Number two, Magnitogorsk. Again, where did we see this? We saw this in the case of iron ore regions. In the it is a industrialized city in Russia. Again, very next to my Ural mountains, Ural mountain region. that name itself is quite important. It is present in the mountain ranges, which is called as Magnetania. Magnetania. Now, this mountain have lot of magnetitic reserves of iron ore, and there is a lot of potential, and there is a lot of presence of iron and steel industry in this region. And then followed by that, I have the Donbas region of Ukraine. Donbas region. Right now, Donbas has been repeatedly coming up in news. So Donbas, essentially, Donetsk and Luhansk region, Donetsk plus Luhansk region. Now, Donbas is a region of Ukraine. Again, the coal mines of Donbas region makes it one of the urbanized or one of the most exploited region in terms of mineral excavation. It became, or it is one of the most exploited region in terms of mineral excavation, because of which there is a large scale natural depletion in terms of these areas, natural depletion of ecological reserves. Okay, and then coming to Great Lakes region, the Superior Lake region, Lake Superior. So Great Lake region of US. So this is actually, you have certain lakes like Ontario, which is in line, you have lakes like it is like it'll be like this. That lake region will be like this, like fingers. Now, what is it is, there are certain lakes which actually lies in the parts of Canada, and then there are certain lakes which lies towards America. So it's actually a combination of US Canadian region, Great Lake region, or a combination of US Canadian region, US Canadian region, and this Ontario River, this Ontario Lake. There is also Ontario River, there is also Ontario Lake, there is also Ontario Province in Canada. This portion is there in Canada. So what is the advantage behind Great Lakes region? First of all, very close to it, I have my Appalachian mountains, Appalachian coalfields. Very next to it, I have my Appalachian coalfields. In the Great Lake region, I have too many iron ore reserves. So combined with this and the Appalachian coalfields, too much development has been seen in the cases of Birmingham, Pittsburgh, Detroit, everything. Today, they are the most industrialized regions of the country. And that's because of this industrialized Great Lake region. Industrialized Great Lake region, lots of manufacturing activity of heavy engineering goods and lots of iron and steel in sector. Okay, so that is with regard to Great Lake industrial region. Another region is, I have my Appalachian region. Another region is Appalachian region. Stop me if there is some doubts with any of this. I am teaching because already we have taken this name so many number of times. So that's why Appalachian region. So Appalachian region, yes, of course, it's known for their Appalachian coal fields. It is known for their coal fields. Again, something it is based upon your heavy industry region. It's a heavy industrialized region. All right. And then I have, let's go to somewhere in the European part. Let's go to somewhere in the European part, starting from Ruhr Valley region of Germany. So here what happens, Ruhr Valley again, it is famous for their iron and steel. It's a highly industrialized region of Germany. Rhine River. Now here also you need to mention this. First of all, Rhine River flows through it. Therefore, it gives you water for navigation. It also provides hydroelectric power. So that's the advantage with this region. Similarly, when I'm talking about Great Lakes region also, all these connecting rivers are excellent navigational rivers. All the connecting rivers in the Great Lake region, they are excellent navigational rivers. So this can be used for navigation also. And then followed by that, number 7 is Alsace and Lorraine region. Alsace and Lorraine region of France. So this region borders around the regions of Germany, France. So in and around that region. Now, yes, as we have discussed before, it is famous for their iron and steel industry. It's famous for their iron and steel industry. And then moving on to somewhere in my China and Japan region. Follow me. I have the Yokohama region of Japan. Yokohama region of Japan. Yokohama region of Japan. So this very, very strong industrialized region, very strong industrialized region, well advanced in terms of iron and steel manufacturing and heavy engineering goods manufacturing. They are also very well developed in the case of semiconductor industry. Semiconductor industry, heavy engineering good manufacturing, shipbuilding industry, and then finally number 9, Manchurian region of China. Manchurian region of China, you name the industry will be there. Talk about paper mill industry, talk about iron and steel industry. You can talk about iron and steel, paper mills, heavy machinery or heavy engineering based goods. Most of them will be around this Manchurian region. And these are said to be the world's best industrial regions. These are said to be the world's top industrial regions. Okay. So with that, let us complete this discussion. Let us go to the next discussion that we have. So the next discussion is about patterns of world trade. Patterns of world trade. So there are different industrial regions that we have. So how does trade takes place between these two regions? What is the pattern that we are observing with the case of world trade? How does world trade usually happens? First of all, let's talk about a bit of history, and then let's talk about what is happening right now. And please take running notes. And please take some running notes. All right. Okay. Okay. So first of all, trade has been happening for a very long time, like for ages together. But post-industrial revolution, there has been a huge jump with regard to trade. And what sort of trade has been happening from the so-called Asian countries, or from the so-called low LDCs, the least developed countries? Raw material is taken, and the raw material has been manufactured in the colonial empires, and then it gets transported so to the colonies. So this kind of colonial imperial relationship has been going on. But from 1900s, from the time of 1900s, when slowly the states, when the countries started to get independence, when the countries started to get independence, things started to reverse, because those newly independent countries also started to develop their own industries. The best example is India. We tried to set up industrial based 5-year plans, industrial based 5-year plans that showed the importance that independent countries give to trade flows. Just listen, need not write. In the initial times, maybe from 1950s to 1980s, trade was very one-sided. Trade was very one-sided. It was not a balanced trade. It was not a balanced trade. So what happens was, trade flow was dominated from or between high income countries. Australia would trade with New York. Australia would trade with USA. USA would trade with England. The trade was mostly between high income countries. That contributed to the majority portion of the trade. And this pattern is what we call it as north-north trade. I repeat, this pattern is what we call it as north-north trade. What is this pattern that I told you? From between 1950s to 1980s, there was too much of trade that went on between high income countries. So in short, you can say, you can take a quick map and maybe you can draw something like this. Okay. Okay, listen. Now, what is this north-north trade? Basically, they are talking about something like this. I'm sorry. So essentially, this is north-north trade. Apparently, these countries, the ones that I have, this is the borderline. The ones that are on this side of the boundary line, and apparently that included Australia also. So that is called as north-north trade. So there is a north-south divide in the global map. That is, the southern countries are actually poor countries, and the northern countries are much more richer countries. So the trade usually happens between US, Canada, Western Europe, and Japan, and parts of Russia and Australia also. So this is called as north-north trade. And right now, we are witnessing a south-south commerce as well as a north-south commerce. Right now, there has been huge transition from this condition to north-south trade and south-south trade. This shift in patterns is what we have observed. In a very short format, this shift of trade is what we have observed in the global world trade patterns. All right. So what happened in the intervening time? The first thing is um, emerging economies, in the form of emerging economies, the rise of countries of Southeast Asia, the rise of what is called as the tiger economies, right? Have you heard of this term called tiger economies? Tiger economies, tiger economies. Tiger economies refers to those Southeast Asian countries, which includes the countries of my Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia. So those are tiger economies. And the rise of tiger economies is the first thing that we have observed. Okay, so that shifted the balance in favor of the South world regions also. So that shifted the location to this part of the world. Okay, that shifted the location to this part of the world. So the first thing is the emergence of tiger economies. Then second thing is the second important change with regard to, or the second important major factor with regard to this transition, second major important reason for this transition from north-north trade to north-south and south-south trade. How did the transition happen? First thing is emergence of tiger economies. The second thing is something that is closely associated to number one, the rise of emerging market economies, which includes the countries of China, India, China and India. The rise of emerging market economies as systemically important trading partners. The rise of emerging market economies as systemically important trading partners. Now, in the present day world, in the present day world, I cannot ignore India and China from the equation. So that's why we call it as systemically important trading partners. After this huge development, after much development in these parts, we cannot exclude tiger economies. We cannot exclude countries like, or markets like India and China. This is a huge market. So the northern parts of the world, like USA or any other country, Western European countries, they cannot neglect a market like India. They cannot neglect a market like India. Third thing is growing role of technology and global supply chains, or global value chains, or global supply chains. Growing importance with regard to technology and the growing importance with regard to global value chains. Tomorrow, if I say I'm not going to accept any products from Japan, then that means most of my automobile sector will be affected, my iron and steel sector will be affected, my semiconductors would be affected. Therefore, I cannot say that I will not be trading with any particular country. Let's say, for example, we are not trading with Pakistan. Basmati rice, much of our high quality basmati rice comes from Pakistan. So, and many of the dry fruits also. So that in that way, always all of the countries are very much interconnected. And what brought in this kind of interconnection? Globalization, your popularly called as your LPG reforms. So after globalization, after the era of globalization, the whole world has been very much trade-wise. It is very much interconnected. It is very much interconnected. Okay. Okay. So that these are some broad reasons for the transition to have occurred. Continuing to that discussion, adding some more points to it. Adding some more points to it. The huge urbanization and industrialization, the huge urbanization and industrialization that occurred in the countries of China and Japan, China and India created demand for more and more raw materials, created more and more demand for capital goods. This is important. The industrialization that happened in these two countries created a huge demand for raw materials and capital goods. What do you mean by capital goods? Like the goods which I use to produce some other consumer goods. Like, for example, let's say I'm going to produce a car. I need a robo. Right now, many robots are utilized. I need a robot to operationalize the mission. So that is a capital good. So a capital good is like a major good. It is a good that is used to produce some of the other consumer goods. So that is also one of the other reasons, the emerging trends of urbanization and industrialization. And the next important thing is there have been lot of outsourcing activities which happened. Number 6, lots of outsourcing activities or offshoring activities. What is outshoring? What is outsourcing and offshoring? With regard to IT, this has been happening in a large scale. Like, for example, a service sector, a person like maybe, what can I say? Any person, like, for example, let's take Shell Industries. Okay, so Shell is a major organization. Let's say that they have an important product to be developed. What they will do is a software product to be developed. What they will do it, they will outsource the work to somewhere, to some company, maybe Infosys that is present in Bangalore. There will be some top pharmaceutical industry in Norway. They will be outsourcing their work to a software client, a software industry which is present in Bangalore. This is called as outsourcing. So one market is very much dependent on another market. The outsourcing and offshoring led to fragmentation of manufacturing and fragmentation of service sectors. Fragmentation of manufacturing. What do you mean by that? Let us say that I have Apple company that is situated in US, wants to produce one minor component. Now that particular metal, rare earth metal icon, other it might have been excessively found in Ukraine. So what they will do is they will set up a manufacturing unit somewhere in Poland or Slovakia, and they will borrow the raw material from Ukraine. They will manufacture it in a third country. So what is happening here? One part of Apple is getting produced in USA. Another part of Apple is getting manufactured in China. Another part of Apple product is getting manufactured in somewhere near Ukraine. Now, in this condition, I'm fragmenting my supply chain. I'm fragmenting my manufacturing process based on location-specific regions. So this is called as outsourcing or offshoring, and that is also leading to an increased transition towards southern parts of the world, where I will be having cheap labor, where I'll be having skilled labor also. US, one person will be reluctant to do the same work, whereas in Indian will do the same work for a much lesser revenue, for a much lesser income. So this is something that we are seeing. All that, the low income nature of India and China, all of that is leading to a transition from north-north trade to north-south and south-south trade. This is the pattern of world trade. There is a shift, and the shift we have explained. How it has been there initially with regard to colonial empire, and then a transition happened, and then this happened. What are the reasons behind it? Along with the map. And maybe one example, you can give an example of Apple. So Apple, the headquarters is somewhere here, and they produce some of their goods in China, and they sell it in India. So they manufacture some of the semiconductors in Germany. In such scenario, there is a fragmentation. All right. So that is it about my patterns of world trade. Any doubts in these topics which we have discussed right now? Clear? Any doubts that you have? Anything that we need to discuss? Clear or no? Can I move forward? Yes or no? Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. Perfect. Let's go ahead then. Let's go ahead. We are moving to world agriculture. Okay. There is two more topics with regard to energy crisis and limits to growth. But first of all, we'll deal with some portions of world agriculture. What I'm going to deal now, what I'm going to deal today with regard to world agriculture, in a way, it is also related to the agriculture chapter which we have dealt before. So try to link this with that agriculture topic of paper 2. Okay. So there is something called as agricultural regionalization and our topic into relation. There is something called as typology of agricultural regions. That's your heading, typology of agricultural regions. What is this all about? First of all, listen. Agricultural regions. Whenever I say this name, then I immediately say this name. Two, three things. One thing is an agricultural region. Let's say that I am talking about Punjab and Haryana. Okay. As soon as I say that name, wheat cultivation comes to your mind. So there they are engaging in commercial grain farming. Yes or no? Because they are engaging in commercial grain farming in the terms of large scale, large quantities of commercial farming. Commercial farming when I'm talking about Punjab and Haryana. Immediately when I use some other name, like if I'm talking about um, bunny grasslands of Gujarat, or if I'm talking about bunny grasslands of Gujarat, or if I'm talking about the Gujar tribes of Himachal Pradesh, the Gujar tribes who practice transhumance, or the Banihal tribes, Gujar tribes. Now everybody practice transhumance. What they will do, they have some small quantities of sheep with them, sheep or cattle or whatever is there with them. They will take it to the hills and then they will come back to the plain region. So they will take them to the hills during the case of extreme summer in the plain region. They will take them to the hills, and when there is winter, they will come back to the plains. So this is what they do in the case of transhumance. So they have very, very less of or small number of cattle. Like be it goats, be it sheep, whatever it is, they have a small quantity of cattle with them. They engage in what is called as nomadic. They are nomadic herders. They have very small portion of cattle with them, so they are engaging in a nomadic life. So it's nomadic herding. When I'm talking about Tamil Nadu, this cases of like maybe if I'm talking about Tamil Nadu, Kerala, more number of subsistence cultivation subsistence intensive rice cultivation, subsistence intensive rice cultivation goes on. I gave you three examples. Number one, number two, number three, Punjab, Haryana. But tell me one thing, all of this are examples of some form of agriculture. Cattle rearing is also an agriculture. Subsistence cultivation is also an agriculture. Commercial grain farming is also a type of agriculture. But all these agricultures are not similar. One they are talking about cattle, another place they are talking about subsistence farming, another place they are talking about commercial farming. But at the end of the day, all three of them together come under this category of agriculture, which means even when India is practicing agriculture on a major part, even when many people, two-thirds of them are engaged indirectly with regard to agriculture, the type of agriculture that is practiced in one region is different from the type of agriculture which is practiced in another region. But all of them fall under the category of agricultural region, but the type of one region performing agriculture is different from another region. This is what we call it as typology of agricultural region. Agricultural region തന്നെയാണ്, but within this agricultural region there is a definite demarcation. Demarcation is definitely there. So that is defined by agricultural regionalization or typology, different types of agricultural region. Agricultural region is in fact is an uninterrupted area with some definite, what do you call, definite outer limits, with some definite demarcations. So Whittlesey, let me write his name. Has actually classified the major agricultural regions of the world into different categories. Okay, so agricultural region has been categorized by Whittlesey into certain different agricultural types. He delineated the agricultural region. On the basis of five characteristics. Number one, what is the relationship between crop and animal? Crop and animal association. The second thing is, like if I have agriculture, there will be some portion of pastoralism which is associated to it. So agriculture, how is it related to pastoralism, which is my cattle rearing? How is it related? How is it related to one another? In fact, agriculture, the presence of a large land and the cattle, they have a relationship with the soil also. Agriculture will grow very well only when there is a fertile soil, and pastoralism will depend on the quality of the agricultural produce. If there is only large quantities of grasses, there will be good quick cattle. So definitely there is a relationship between agriculture, pastoralism. Then the second character is, what is the relationship between my capital and labor? Capital and labor. Capital and labor. Agriculture depends on labor, and when there is too much of labor, it becomes subsistence mode of agriculture, intensive cultivation, subsistence mode of cultivation. But when there is too much of capital, mechanization becomes possible, and commercial farming also can become possible. Okay, so production type will depend on the relationship between capital and labor. Production type will depend on the relationship between capital and labor. Three capital undengil I can mechanize my agriculture. And if there is too much of labor, I can indulge in what is called as subsistence methods of cultivation, an intensive subsistence method of cultivation. Then coming to the third factor, according to Whittlesey, the third factor is productivity of agriculture. Productivity of agriculture. There will be the same crop, rice or wheat, anything. There will be the same crop, but in one place, I can have much more productivity. On the other places, I can have very less productivity. So what agriculture productivity depends at the end of the day, it depends on my regional factors, type of soil, type of methods, type of soil, type of methods that the labor indulges in. I can give you an example here. Consider an example like this. I have good capital, but my soil condition is very poor. Can I have good productivity? No. Take for example another example. I have good labor, but there is too much of labor, then what will I do? I can at the maximum, but there is very less capital. So at the maximum, I can engage in subsistence mode of agricultural production. Ini subsistence ano commercial ano uttri productivity തരുന്നത്. It is at the end of the day my commercial methods which is going to give me a lot of output. So definitely productivity of agriculture definitely depends on my other agricultural resources. On my other agricultural resources, depending on the quality of my other agricultural resources. Number 4, consumption pattern. Consumption pattern. Consumption pattern. So let's say that there are people who consume a lot of meat. Okay, usually the Americans, they consume a lot of animal meat. Meat consumers. Let's say I'm giving you just example, animal meat. So US people consuming a lot of protein, consuming a lot of animal meat. Now in that area, I'm growing mundi rice. No, that's not possible. It is at the end of the day, depending on the consumption matter, my agricultural characteristics will differ. All right. In a place like India, mostly in a place like South India, if I'm giving them a lot of wheat cultivation, all the rice cultivation has been converted to wheat cultivation. That's not correct. Consumption pattern depends on the local agricultural character. It depends on the local consumption patterns. Number 5, methods and techniques used in agriculture. Methods and techniques used in agriculture. If I'm talking about Europe and USA, I am talking about mechanized farming. If I'm talking about Asian countries, there will be lack of many infrastructure. All that will affect my patterns of agriculture. So according to Whittlesey, he said that these 5 characters together decide my typology of agricultural regions. And based on these 5 characters, based on these 5 characteristics, Whittlesey has identified 13 typological regions. Number one, nomadic herding. This Whittlesey's theory, Whittlesey's typological region theory, it is pretty important. So just follow me. Need not write, just follow me. First one is nomadic herding. Based on those 5 characters, he has identified some 13 agricultural regions. So number 1 out of that is nomadic herding. This is an way of farming. This is an extensive way of farming in which animal grazing has been given much more importance. And first point is animal grazing is given much more importance. And the second thing is it involves people who are nomads, who are undertaking seasonal migration, who undertake seasonal migration along with their cattle, who undertake seasonal migration along with their cattle. So mostly these kinds of nomadic herding, wherever you come across the term nomadic herding activity, that those regions will have sparsely populated regions. Mostly in the case of desert regions, you can see patterns of nomadic herding, especially in the Saharan region, in the Saharan African region. Saharan African region. Okay, that is about nomadic herding. Now let's move to the second important. So as I told you, transhumans in India also we practice the same. So transhumans, Bakarwals, Gujars, these are the tribes who engage in transhumans. And the second important typological region is livestock ranching. Livestock ranching. Livestock ranching is you have a large grassland, you have a large temperate grasslands, and there you engage in livestock cultivation or livestock rearing. Like what? You grow some cattle in the form of sheep or goats or cows or horses. You grow cattle, and maybe you grow pigs. So what you do is livestock ranching. You engage in animal husbandry activities. And the ranches are also, the animals are also used for meat processing industries. So especially in the in America, there is a region called as the prairies. Yes, the prairies of America. There you will have a lot of wheat cultivation. തൊട്ടടുത്ത് നമുക്ക് we have a cotton belt also. So let's say that this is America. Okay, so you have a prairie region here, and immediately next to it you have a cotton belt region. Okay, now what happens is in this prairie region, towards the drier parts of this prairie region, towards the drier portions, like if I'm talking about the Western Ghats, towards the Malabar coast, I have the wetter portion, and then I have the interior plateau being the drier portion. Similarly, I have the drier portion of the prairie grasslands that is exclusively for cattle ranching activity. You remember this US people, they will eat a lot of um, pork and beef. So beef, pork, they have burger patties also in where they eat a lot of cattle and stuff like that. So basically they consume a lot of cattle, they consume a lot of animal protein. And livestock ranching especially is for those people who engage in commercial uh, you cannot say commercial, but an activity in which you engage in animal husbandry, but the region is in a very semi-arid region. It's in a semi-arid region. That's the important word. It is mostly towards the semi-arid drier portions, drier portions. Okay. Okay. And then um, the ranches are also used for this kind of milk activities, or it's kind of scientifically managed. It's very much scientifically managed. So in that aspect, nomadic herding and livestock ranching is different. Because this you are always engaged in a continuous migration activity, but livestock ranching അങ്ങനെ ഒരു migratory activities ഒന്നും ഇല്ല. ഇവിടെയും there is cattle activity only. Here also there is cattle, here also there is cattle, but the number of cattle is quite low here. The number of cattle is very high here. It is in completely maybe in an arid region, or maybe in a you can say maybe in a not very supportive ecological system. In a not very supportive ecological system, you engage in nomadic practices. ഇവിടെയാണെങ്കിലോ it's not the ecological system is not that unsupportive. It is semi-arid, it is a dry portion, but that does not mean it is it's like a desert. Okay, so examples of livestock ranching activities includes it's mostly present near the Americas, North America, South America, Australia, South Africa, Brazil, America, North and South America, Australia, South Africa, Brazil, Argentina, and Peru. Okay, and then coming to the next important number 3, shifting cultivation. Shifting cultivation. So where will shifting cultivation be mostly seen? You can know that when you have to cut the trees and then cultivate the fields, the rice fields or whatever fields, then there will be shifting cultivation. What we call it as slash and burn agriculture, slash and burn cultivation. So mostly in the dense tropical rainforest. Dense tropical rainforest of Asia, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, and in north eastern parts of India, in South America, in the Amazonian basin. Those are the regions where I will see a lot of slash and burn cultivation. Slash and burn cultivation. Now here the farmers mostly, even if they cut the grasslands, even if they cut the forest, they will engage in what sort of agriculture? They will engage in mostly subsistence mode of agriculture. Yes, they will grow food only for their family and they will consume it, and at the end of the day they will leave it. So tribes, mostly tribes engage in such forms of shifting cultivation. Okay, and where is it seen? Mostly in parts of the thick rainforest region. So Africa, America, Southeast Asian region, and also in India, we see it in the northeastern parts of our country. Then comes rudimentary tillage. Or sedentary agriculture. Rudimentary tillage or sedentary agriculture. Sedentary, from the name itself we can understand, the farmer does not move, the farmer settles in the place, in that particular in that place where the field is located. So it is a settled form of agriculture. It is a settled form of agriculture. It is a subsistence type of agriculture. It is a settled form of agriculture. It is mostly done in the case of your tropical regions where soil fertility is not that high. Crop rotation is practiced and fallowing is done. Crop rotation is practiced, and at the same time fallowing is done. What is fallowing? Leaving your field vacant without cultivating any crops. So fallowing is done in these regions. Okay, so that is about rudimentary tillage. And then you have intensive subsistence tillage, intensive subsistence tillage with paddy dominance, with paddy dominance. And number 6, intensive subsistence tillage without paddy dominance, with paddy dominance and without paddy dominance. From the name itself, we can understand it is intensive subsistence, which means subsistence, which means we are not using mechanization, and at the same time it is intensive, which means there is good amount of precipitation, there is a good amount of irrigated regions, the soil is good, which means I can indulge in more than one crop in a year. It can feed a large amount of people. Mostly Southeast Asian countries, the rice economies, Southeast Asian countries indulge in intensive subsistence cultivation with paddy dominance. With paddy dominance, most of the crops that is grown is paddy. It's rice. Have you understood this term? Let me repeat it. Subsistence, there is not much mechanization. There is not much intensive inputs which is given. It is highly subsistence, highly some low levels of technology will be used. It is not mechanized farming, so it is subsistence level of farming. Yes, at the same time it is very much intensive. More than one crop we can get from that field because of the natural fertility of the field and because of the cheap labor, because of the intense work done by the laborers. So yes, that's about intensive subsistence tillage. Going deeper into it, it is with the paddy dominance, which means rice is going to be my major crop. Rice is going to be my major crop. Since it is subsistence way of cultivation, I will be using manual power and animal power instead of machine power. I will be using manual power and animal power instead of machine power. I will not be using advanced chemical fertilizers. I might be using some normal manures. But increasingly, we are taking to it is in our country and in many countries we are this was formed by Whittlesey ages ago, right? So that's the theory which he had given. But right now, even now, we are practicing intensive subsistence tillage with paddy dominance in India, and we are using some high grade fertilizers also. Now, other characteristics include mostly it is being practiced in the tropical regions, in the Southeast Asian countries. That includes countries like my Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, as well as Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Japan. These are the countries which engage in intensive subsistence tillage. Double or triple cropping can be done in this kind of intensive farming practices. Double cropping or triple cropping can be done in the case of such farming lands. Cattle and buffaloes are kept as draught animals. Draught animals. What is draught? D-R-A-U-G-H-T. Meaning they can carry some goods, for mainly for um, uh, pulling that plow into the field. So this is called as draught animals, not for milking, but for milking also, but mostly for draught animals. We keep a certain portion of cows. And now coming to the next category, intensive subsistence tillage without paddy dominance. So here the amount of rainfall is not that very high, and you can grow some grain crops like wheat and millets that do not require high rainfall. In the 6th region, we can grow millets and wheat, which do not need good source of rainfall. So the comparatively less wet areas of Asia, the comparatively less wet regions of Asia, North Africa, parts of Middle East, North Africa, dry regions of Asia, they engage in intensive subsistence tillage without paddy dominance. Again, in this region, human power and animal power is used on a large scale, and that is why it remains like a subsistence method. That is why it remains like a subsistence method. And then coming to the next category, 7th one, commercial plantation. Commercial plantation. Yes, we can grow crops like tea, coffee, rubber, palm oil. These are commercial crops, cash crops, high commercial value. They are of high commercial value, capital intensive farming, and mostly it is grown in areas which had some colonial influence to it. Mostly it is grown in areas where there is a colonial influence to it. So in parts of Asia, in parts of Africa and Latin America. In parts of Asia, Africa and Latin America, mostly there is the growth of such commercial plantations. Then I have Mediterranean agriculture. Then I have Mediterranean agriculture. So mostly in the Mediterranean regions, tell me what sort of crops will be grown mostly in the Mediterranean regions? Any idea? Mediterranean regions. So I have this portion, right? I have my this portion wherein I have Africa, I have Arabia here. Then so this portion where I have Italy and north parts of Africa, this Italy portion, close right next to my Mediterranean region, this European portion of France, that region of Europe and the northern parts of Africa. Can anybody tell me what's the crop usually grown in Mediterranean region? One important crop. Fruits and horticultural crops and a quick hint. Remember, this is something that you need to remember. Remember that pizza that you eat. Yes, pizza that you eat. All those toppings that they put, no, which usually you do not get it in your mouth. Oregano, jalapenos, olives, all those Italian herbs, all those fancy items that they put on pizza, olives, jalapenos, and what was the other thing? Oregano, yeah, oregano. These things are grown in this Mediterranean region. And most importantly, vineyards, grapes, grape cultivation. And from there, they get wine. That is the crop which is grown in Mediterranean region apart from horticulture. So fruits. So horticulture plus these kinds of crops. Let me erase this or we'll go to the next thing. Okay, number 8. Okay. Yes, have you heard of these things in your pizza? You have olives in your pizza, you have jalapenos in pizza. Yes, remember this. I always connect with some simple examples. Always connect with some simple examples, some things that you can remember so that it stays in your brain for a long period of time. Right. So Mediterranean agriculture is mostly related to these kinds of things. And always remember that wine is something that is connected with Mediterranean form of region, Mediterranean agriculture. So location is this region. Apart from that, you also have, apart from this European, apart from this region, you also do have some Mediterranean region outside the Mediterranean Sea, portions of Chile, just a second, portions of Chile and some parts of South Africa also has some Mediterranean type of climate, and some portions of Western Australia. So these are the portions where you have Mediterranean agriculture, and mostly olives, your figs, grapes, horticulture, citrus fruits. These are grown in this kind of region. And what is the another climatic character with regard to Mediterranean region? When does it usually rain? During which season?
Winter season.
I remember teaching this even in the other portion of general studies of geography. The only climate where you have a classic winter rainfall, it is wet winters. So we call it as wet winters. So winter it will rain, and that is also another reason why we have a lot of crops like these things, all right. So that is about Mediterranean form of agriculture. Going to the next one, number 9, commercial grain farming. This is very important. Commercial grain farming, pretty much important. Listen to this. This is where your prairies and other things will come. Prairies will come here. Commercial grain farming. Give me a break. I'll come back right now, maybe in another 2 minutes or something. Okay, so listen, commercial grain farming is what we talked about with regard to your steppes region of Eurasia, prairies of America. All of them engage in wheat cultivation, commercial grain cultivation, and that is basically my comes under my commercial grain farming. It is a market oriented agriculture. It is highly commercialized, highly mechanized cultivation. It is primarily dependent on growing wheat. Most of the so-called advanced countries, the temperate grasslands of the advanced countries, where there is good source of rainfall, engage in this form of cultivation. Advanced countries, steppes, your temperate grasslands, advanced countries, temperate grassland regions, where there is good source of rainfall, or good source of rainfall in the do not think uh, intense rainfall. No. At the end of the day, wheat needs only 75 centimeters of rainfall. So that 75 is what they need. Okay, so that is 70 to 75. That's the border limit. So that is ideal for wheat cultivation, and these regions, which is my temperate grasslands, grow excellent commercial wheat cultivation. So examples or the locations, the first thing is steppes of Eurasia, prairies of North America, downs of Australia, pampas of Argentina, okay. So roughly this forms my temperate grasslands regions, and they are very much involved in commercial wheat farming. Why do we say commercial again and again? Understand one thing, the fields are very big, vast size. So when you have a big size field, you can bring in a lot of machines. So when there is a big size of the field, commercialization, mechanization becomes possible. Okay, so that is it with regard to this kinds of commercial grain farming in these regions. After that, the next important region is number 10, commercial livestock farming and commercial livestock and crop farming, which is equal to mixed farming. Commercial livestock and crop farming, that's the next category. Commercial livestock and crop farming. So again, this is a type of mixed farming activity. Europe specializes in this form of mixed farming type of activity. So Great Britain, Europe, England, Great Britain, England, and New Zealand engages in this type of commercial livestock as well as commercial farming, commercial cropping together at a single place. So it's an integrated mixed farm practice. It is an integrated mixed farm practices, and it uses a lot of it is capital intensive. It is highly capital intensive. You can write like that. It is highly capital intensive. It uses extensive knowledge of agriculture in the form of high machinery. You need high machinery, and you need good knowledge with regard to commercial livestock rearing also. Okay, so that is with regard to this kind of mixed farming practices. Okay, and then number 11, subsistence crop and livestock farming, opposite of this. Subsistence crop and livestock farming. Subsistence crop and livestock farming. So these are some things which is like what you see in India. Understand, we also your grandfathers or my grandfathers, we will also have a farm where we will be engaged in crop cultivation. We will be also having some one or two cows and some 10 goats or something like that. Now this is a subsistence method, this is not a commercialized method, this is a subsistence method. India specializes in this form of subsistence crop and livestock farming. This is also a type of mixed farming. This is also a type of mixed farming. Both are types of mixed farming, but this is a commercial version. This is a subsistence version. Whatever that it is being produced in this kind of farms, most part of it will be taken for within community or within that family consumption. It is mostly done in low fertile soils, especially in India. You can see this example in Rajasthan, in parts of Rajasthan and in parts of interior peninsular parts of India. I repeat, this can be seen in the case of Rajasthan and interior peninsular parts of India. So here we can see that some low intensity crops, like for example, wheat, millets, oil seeds, pulses, the crops which do not need much rainfall, that is grown along with some cattle. And this is an example of subsistence methodology. All right. So see here, the farming is also not much taken care of. Avade inputs seeds are of poor quality. There is traditional way of cultivation. The productivity is not that much. At the same time, when I'm talking about livestock also, the livestock will also be of the animals will also be of very poor quality. So this is something that is usually followed in the drier portions of Middle East, the mountainous regions of Mexico, and in northern parts of Eurasian region, where the rainfall is not that high, where there is extreme snowfall. Subsistence crop and livestock. Okay. Subsistence crop and livestock. In India, we can give many examples. Rajasthan is one classic example. Interior parts of the peninsula is also another example. And then coming to next one, number 12, commercial dairy farming. Commercial dairy farming. Commercial dairy farming. So dairying is a capital intensive industry, and that too, normalized, if I say I'm having 10 cows, I need to maintain 10 cows. That itself is a big capital intensive industry, intensive sector. You have to take care of the dairy. You have to make sure that the cattle, the cows, are not infected. Avarna proper shed you have to maintain them very properly. Now for 10 cows itself is a big headache. Think of like hundreds and hundreds of cows. So it's a highly capital intensive technique. Sorry, it is a highly capital intensive technique, but it's a commercial dairying activity. So think of conditions like a private dairy farm, Arogya, or Milky Mist, Milky Mist paneer, Milky Mist curd, that this you get no. So Milky Mist, think of Milky Mist, think of any other paneer brand that you think of. Those kinds, they involve in commercial dairying activity, private activity, and mostly, follow me, countries like New Zealand, Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands, Belgium, Switzerland, there you get excellent dairying activity in these regions. So northwestern parts of Europe, including countries like Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, and coming to down south, Australia, New Zealand, USA, they engage in this form of commercial dairying activity. Nearly 80% of milk production in the country comes from this kind of commercial dairying activity. And then after that, we have the 13th and the last type, which is specialized horticultural techniques. Specialized horticulture. Specialized horticulture. So by horticulture, we mean vegetables cultivation, fruits and flowers, vegetables, fruits and flowers. This kind of cultivation, it's basically horticulture based cultivation. Mostly countries of northwestern parts of Europe, Britain, Denmark, they engage in Netherlands, they engage in this kind of specialized horticulture. And one thing is important, there is some practice called as market gardening in parts of Britain, especially when I'm talking about European type of regions, I will be seeing market gardening. So here, it's a specialized form of horticulture where the farms will be of a very small size, and the farms are intensively cultivated. It is intensively cultivated. It's scientifically managed. It is intensively cultivated. It is scientifically managed, and the markets are just next to it. Suppose let's say Britain is already a very small place. So Britain like in the next town they will be cultivating it, and in the next town they will be selling it. So market gardening. So it's called as market gardening, but it is very, very scientific and it is highly commercialized. It is very scientific and it is highly commercialized, and the soil fertility, everything is maintained in a very scientific manner. Okay, so that is it with regard to specialized horticulture. Specialized horticulture. Okay, so that is completing my discussion with regard to Whittle says typological regions of agriculture, or you can say this is the global regionalization with regard to or global agricultural regional types. Global agricultural regional types as defined by Whittles. So what is the merits of this classification? What is the demerit of this classification? What is the merits of this classification and what are its demerits? The first merit is, the first thing is, he was the pioneer. Whittlesey was a pioneer in classifying the agricultural regions of the world on a very scientific basis. It's a very scientific method of delineation. The factors that he took, that's the first point. The second point is, remember the 5 factors that we discussed. Those 5 factors, they were very clearly demarcated. They were very clearly demarcated. There is no ambiguity. So that is another thing. Because of this 13 different types of world regional agricultural classification, comparison or a comparative study between one agricultural region and another becomes easy, becomes possible. And this entire classification is based on observable items. If I'm talking about cattle, I can observe cattle. If I'm talking about market gardening, I can observe market gardening. If I'm talking about Mediterranean methods of agriculture, I can observe it. There are whatever he has said, it's not empiric, it's not based on some deductive approach. It is an empirical observation. It's an empirical observation. It is, he did not write a theory and then he made some observations. It's very much focusing on observable, statistically calculated items. Statistically calculated items, those items, whatever he has enlisted, those items that he has enlisted in this 13 categories, I can actually see it in real time. None of these is assumptions. So the important advantage. And this kind of 13 different typology, you can also apply it internally within your own country also. Certain, it's not like all 13 needs to be observed completely in a country, but you can definitely use it for an internal classification in terms of the regional country, in terms of a country, for agricultural regionalization also, you can use this model. It will apply. Now, what are the limitations behind it? What are the demerits behind it? The demerits lies in the factor that he did not take into account. He did not take into account some of the political factors, some policy making factors of the government. Suppose, let's say that the government has said, please grow organic farming. So organic farming is a part of governmental policy. But if Whittlesey is coming and calculating the agriculture of that particular country, he will say, okay, this country has got a lot of organic farming. No, it's not because the farmers engaged in organic farming. It is because of the governmental policy. There is an external pressure. So these factors, like say some amount of religious factor, some amount of political factor, was not taken into account by Whittlesey. What sort of religious factor will come into picture? Suppose, let's say, if I'm talking about pig consumption in India or beef consumption in India, many religions do not eat beef. Many religions do not eat goat. So there is a religional aspect. There is a customs, traditional aspect also, which is associated with the agriculture in any given region. Suppose, let's say, if a state is filled with Jains, do you think that state will engage in root kinds of root crops like carrot or onion or garlic? No. So definitely, with India in focus, with India as a basis, traditions, cultural values, religion, political factors importantly play a role. Whittlesey has not taken into account, or has not taken into consideration certain other factors like land ownership, size of land holdings, fragmentation of land holdings. Now, these are important problem areas with respect to India. We could not engage in commercial grain cultivation because our farms are very much fragmented. Our farms are very much fragmented. Whittlesey cannot take this into consideration. He would say India is most of the country, most of Asia, including India, is engaged in subsistence method of cultivation. But what actually is the problem with India? Land fragmentation, land holding, size of land holding is very small. These factors he never took into consideration. He thought the climate and the characters with regard to India favors subsistence method, but that's not the case. There are some other factors also which he did not take into consideration. These are broadly the merits and the demerits with respect to Whittlesey's classification. All right. Any doubts in this point? Any doubts in these things? Yes, clear, Ano. Can I get some messages? If there is some more messages, maybe we can go forward and then give the next heading. Fine. Give the next heading as food and nutrition problems. Food and nutrition based problems. More or less, the hard parts of economic and industrial geography is over. From here onwards, there is not much hard topics that is left. So it will be breezy from here. Food and nutritional problems. So first thing, there is a definite ratio, or not a ratio, a definite calorie count which is fixed for every individual. So they say 2100, 200 calories is what everybody should be eating. At the same time, not just calorie intake, not just food intake, we also need nutrition, right? We need some vitamins and minerals, so that to avoid the problem of hidden hunger. What is hidden hunger? Hidden hunger means the problems that can occur because of lack of nutrients, because of the lack of micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and so on. So that is called as nutritional deficiency. So there is something called as food deficiency, there is something called as nutritional deficiency. Food deficiency in Barembo, when the food, when a person is not able to access food, when a person is not able to access food, then there is a problem of food deficiency. So that is what happened with regard to India when we had the during the time of 1960s, when we had the famine, plus we were having two wars that was going on. We were supposed to sign a humiliating treaty with US, which is called as PL 480. That was mainly because of food deficiency. But at present, India is facing something called as nutritional deficiency, hidden hunger, iron. Women are women do not have much of anemic content in them. They are facing iron deficiency in the form of anemia. We are facing micronutrient deficiency. Vitamin C is deficient for people. Gum problems, your teeth, gum problems happen because of that. Vitamin D deficiency is there because people do not go outside and be in the sun. Previously, we were working under the sun. We were walking in the sun. Right now, there is no exposure of sun. We always remain inside the building in front of a computer. And what happens because of that? There is vitamin D deficiency, vitamin A deficiency. So these kinds of micronutrient deficiency. Similarly, you can talk about molybdenum deficiency, zinc deficiency, and so on. So there are many diseases also. Like, for example, if I have vitamin C deficiency, I will have scurvy. Yes, vitamin B deficiency, B with deficiency, C deficiency, I will have scurvy. B deficiency, I have beriberi. For D, I have rickets. And then for protein deficiency, what do I have? Kwashiorkor and marasmus. So these are different types of hidden hunger, malnourishment, nutritional deficiency, malnourished children are coming up in India because of nutritional deficiency. Okay. So food insecurity, food deficiency happens because of this calorie differences. Because of this calorie differences, there is a cause of food deficiency. So first of all, let us think what are the different reasons, causes of this problem to have occurred. What are the causes for the hunger problems to occur in our, not in our country, in globally. First of all, you need to understand there are some high calorie intake region, which includes all the developed countries like US, Japan, all developed countries. Think of all European countries, Australia. Excuse me. All developed countries have this problem, or not a problem, have the issue that is high calorie and high protein. Now understand, high calorie, high protein is also a problem. Okay, high calorie and high protein is also a problem. Why? Because overeating will lead to obesity. Over intake of protein will lead to protein accumulation, which will lead to fat deposits in the body. So overeating is also a problem. Undereating is also a problem. So overeating is being observed. Obesity related issues have been observed in such developed countries who consume more calories than what is needed. Whereas then there are countries which intake very low calories and very low protein. That is also a problem. So most of the African countries, most of the Southeast Asian countries, they have the problem of low calories and low protein intake. What is the causes behind these kinds of problems? Why are some regions in the world food surplus and some other regions of the world food deficient? So there are some reasons. First of all, the first heading is causes of the problem. Causes of the problem of food deficiency. Number one, political reasons. Number one, political reasons. Number one, political reasons. The suppliers, the ones who supply the food, are not concerned about humanitarian needs. Like, what do I mean by this? Suppose, let's say that I have too many apples. I have like maybe 100 apples. A rich person comes to me, a small person comes, a poor person comes to me. The rich person says, my daughter needs apple. Give me all the apples. I will give you 1 lakh. I have 100 apples. He is giving me 1 lakh for that 100 apples. What will I do? If I am having a little bit of humanitarian thoughts in me, I will at least say, no, I need this poor man who's starving. He also needs some apple. Whatever he gives, I will give to him. At least 2 apples if I give to him, he will survive a day. But what will a person who is just worrying about money will think? I will give the entire apples to that rich person. So there is no humanitarian or ethical thinking with regard to the world right now. It is a lack of humanitarian and ethical values where the supplier, the food supplier, provides the entire supplies only to the developed countries, leaving behind the economically poor countries like Africa, like African nations. So the suppliers are only concerned about developing their economy rather than humanitarian ethics. So political reasons is the first point. Second thing is social reasons. Depressed people, people from the SC/ST community, for example, they may not have access to food. There can be regional disparities where a person who is present in a remote corner in Kerala will have access only to tapioca, keranga, your tapioca, only will have access to tapioca and rice. Whereas a person who's residing in a very city place may have access to all the sorts of badam, pista, fruits, vegetables, and everything. What this regional disparity is also one more reason, social reason. Economic disparity. Some people will have the ability to purchase the agricultural commodities. Like, for example, let's say Japan does not have that kind of agricultural resource, but they have the economic resource, they can buy anything. Okay, so economic disparities also there. Similarly, huge rise of population will naturally put a pressure in terms of food. Huge rise of population, this can be the fourth reason. Huge rise of population can also be an important factor with regard to pressure on agricultural crops. Urbanization will put a pressure on land, because what happens with urbanization? All the lands will convert into your buildings, concretization, concrete buildings. Urbanization will also have a pressure in terms of agricultural land. Lack of diversification at the present time, lack of diversification of crops, lack of diversification of crops will lead to 2 3 things. One is, if there is a disaster, if there is a disaster, an ecological disaster, maybe famine, maybe drought, maybe cyclones or anything like that, any disaster, and if you're having just one crop, that one crop will be completely destroyed. If there is a pest attack, and if there is one crop, and if that crop is attacked by the pest, the entire crop is gone. So lack of food diversification, lack of agricultural diversification is also leading to food insecurity. Lack of diversification is also leading to nutritional insecurity, nutritional deficiency. If the entire India country is eating only rice, where will we get protein? Where will we get vitamins from? So we need pulses, we need millets, we need fish, we need chicken, we need paneer. Yes. So all that gives me nutritional security. It prevents nutritional deficiency. The next factor is agricultural productivity of the developing countries is pretty low. Productivity is pretty high when I'm talking about developed countries, but here the productivity is pretty low. Okay. Transportation problems are there, transportation, storage, cold processing units, transportation, storage, cold processing units are all minimum in terms of developing countries. That will lead to losses. That will lead to losses. Some sort of investment is pretty much low in the case of agriculture in terms of developing countries. We are not able to mechanize, we are not able to commercialize the agricultural pattern. So investment is also lacking in our developing countries. And finally, low purchasing capacity of people. Low purchasing capacity of people is also another important factor. Okay, so these are the factors or the causes of the problem of food insecurity and nutritional insecurity. So what is the remedies behind it? What are the remedies behind it? The remedies is, first of all, government has to intervene. Government has to intervene, and the government has already intervened in the form of midday meal schemes. You have the Poshan Abhiyan. Midday meal schemes. Okay, so these are taking care of nutritional deficiencies and other problems with regard to the general supply of food. You can also include PDS plus fair price shops plus no, that's in more of this you can include from your current affairs. After that, you can talk about diversification, agricultural diversification. We are doing it. We are giving more importance to millets, fish, and we are taking that as a part of our diet. So government is taking efforts for it. Similarly, government is also doing what is called as fortification of food items. Fortification of food items. So we are mixing rice with vitamin A and milk with vitamin A and D. Yes, what is fortification basically? One major food item which we regularly consume, add one vitamin to it, add one mineral to it. So that is food fortification. So some, if you observe certain food items, they come with an F plus logo. They come with an F plus logo at the back, or maybe at the corner, one small corner, you can see F plus logo, which means the food is fortified. Which means the food is fortified. So these kinds of things the government are engaging in, and those are all examples of positive intervention, remedial measures that has been taken up by the government. Apart from that, what else are they doing? They are engaging in uh, cross-country coordination between countries. They are making sure that the supply reaches to every person uniformly. So broadly, these are the different problems with regard to food and nutrition, factors behind them, and what is the government doing for it. Now, this portion, that is what the government does with respect to curing the food and hunger problems. It is basically current affairs. I want you to enrich this discussion. Maybe in this notes that you are taking, no, maybe in a different colored pen, write it as current affairs from vision material. It needs to be supplemented with some current affairs from vision material. So this one problem, this one topic, food and nutrition issues, some current affairs we need to, some government schemes. Wherever you see a government scheme that can be linked to some topic in paper, to write it down. All right. So that's the thing with regard to food and nutritional problems. All right. Let's go to the syllabus now. Let me take you to syllabus. If you have any doubts in these topics that we discussed, you can ask me now. But as I'm working on this small thing, just ask me if you have any doubts. So I think you can see my screen. Now look at this. In the case of industry, can you see my screen? Share. Yes, I think you can see my screen. No. Yes, no. Or should I do this? Can you see my screen? Okay. Just tell me if you can see. I'm trying to share something. It's not coming. This screen, this syllabus screen. Can you see this? Yes. Okay. Now look at this. Look at this. Industry chapter, evolution of industries, location factors of all of these industries has been done. Industrial houses. I told you. Industrial houses is like it's like basically Tatas, villas, and stuff like that. Not that important. Industrial complexes we have done, and this industrial regionalization also we have done. New industrial policies we are yet to do. That is, we need to talk about liberalization, new industrial policies, liberalization, globalization. But multinationals we did yesterday, CIS we have already done, and this part of tourism, this part of tourism is remaining, and we need to do liberalization also. We need to do liberalization, new industrial policies. But look at this. This part. Look at this portion. That is, yes, here, look at this, globalization and Indian economy. Can you see this, globalization and Indian economy? I'm thinking of combining globalization and Indian economy with new industrial policies and liberalization, this portion. Okay, so these two things will be combined and done together. Yes, that is one thing. Tourism is remaining, we will do that also. And then coming to economic geography, we have completed world economic development measurement problems. Initial discussion was that world resources distribution has been done. World agriculture typology, agricultural inputs and productivity, it's like three discussed agricultural inputs, your seeds, I've discussed in terms of power, fertilizer, infrastructure, seeds, all that has been done. So that's like more of your, I'll be giving you notes, but we have already discussed in this portion of agriculture, agricultural productivity. This portion we have dealt that only. Okay, so it's more like a repetition. Now, food and nutritional problems, food security, famine causes and effects, world industries location patterns, these have been done. So what is remaining in economic geography? We need to do energy crisis limits to growth. Okay, that's the only thing, that's the only major thing which is remaining here in economic geography. And that, along with whatever has been left in industry, whatever has been left in agriculture, we will do it in the next week. Take a look. I want you all to take a look at political aspects, this chapter. Geographical basis of Indian federalism is nothing but some post-independence. State reorganization is also post-independence. Emergence of new states is also my polity post-independence topic. So most of them, and cross-border terrorism, internal security, most of them you have done it in international relations, internal security, and post-independence. So this part, my work will be very, very less, but your work will be very high. I will be giving you notes. At the same time, I will be looking at some recent issues which has some targeted preparation we will do in political aspects. All right, and then with this we have to do it in detail. So famine also comes here. Famine, which we have seen there, it comes in this portion. Okay, so famine, we'll be doing it here also. Have you got an idea here? Have you got some idea here? These two things, especially political aspects, this chapter. Even if you look at here, international boundary disputes, cross-border terrorism, you would have read it in internal security as well as in international relation, India's role in world affairs. So these things are more like repetitive, but anyways, we will do it. But at the end of the day, it will be repetitive. Okay. Okay, clear, Ano? Have I given you a complete picture of what we are going to do the next week? Is there any doubts? Yes, so I think for everybody, just give me if there is any doubts with the way we are going to. I have only 2 chapters to complete, 9 and 10. Okay, right. So fine, that's it. Thank you for so much. Thank you for your time. You can leave now. Thank you so much. We'll meet you tomorrow.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.